Good. Okay, good morning. Like Patrice said, my name is Tammy Gibson. I am the Grants and Operations Manager for the Department of Early Childhood Education. We're going to talk a little bit about the grant itself, which is, it's not really a grant, because when we say grant, people always think that that's it has an end date, you know, when the grant ends. We've been going strong for 20 years, so we don't anticipate that the funding levels will stop anytime soon. So a lot of times you will hear funding opportunities or an allocation. So we're trying to change the verbiage so that people don't think grants end. So we're going to stop using that word. But our department is 189 people strong, and we have 1,209 classrooms across the state right now. And we have reached a point where our privates are very, very important to us. It is important, and studies have found that diverse delivery is the best situation for children. So if we were to only offer this opportunity to schools, we're not helping children to the full extent. A child care situation is a better situation sometimes, and we know that, and we need to develop that spirit within the state, because for some reason people think that school is free and school is better. Neither is the case all the time. So schools top out in their building space, so if we don't start reaching out to child care, then we're not going to have a place to put all the children in Alabama, and that would not be good. So the main thing that we're going to talk about today is budgets. So I wanted you guys to see if you're awarded a classroom, thank you, that this is what will be expected. So Loretta, if you'll show them the first one. I think you just hit enter. There, okay. This is pulled, it's a screenshot out of what's called baseline, which is where we house our budget. So everyone that has a classroom has access to baseline and their classroom information. So the very first thing that you see is all the information, and this is what you have for a handout in front of you. So you see all the categories and what's expected for you to fund. And you will get this after you are awarded a classroom, and you'll do your initial budget, and you'll put all the dollars in there, and that dollar amount in the column with OSR budget will equal up to your funding amount. And then your monitor, which is what Loretta is, and just for those of you that haven't attended, I know a lot of you guys were at the grant session that I did a couple of months ago, but for those of you that aren't familiar with it, when you have and administer a first class pre-K, you will have the support of a coach and a monitor and a regional director and our Montgomery staff, including me. So your monitor will work with you to make sure that your budget falls within this, and it's doable and it's reasonable, because a lot of times when you get a large sum of money and you don't know exactly everything that's expected of you, that monitor is going to be a lot of help to show you the best place to place the dollars and how to distribute it and where your additional funds will come in. And you'll see that there's a lot of options on that source. So it'll be reversed. Our training class is in a different order. I don't know why that is, but your OSR budget will be in your first column, and then your additional funding sources will be your second column. Okay, so if you will look at the pages that you have in front of you, just see that all the different areas where you're allowed to spend OSR dollars, and then you'll see that there's lots of opportunities and lots of places you can move that. Your first grant or allocation is typically $120,000. And that sounds like a lot when you say it like that, but it comes typically in 4 separate payments, and you'll get the first payment before the school year starts. So we like to get those checks out in July so that you can get started. And if you have a space that needs things, a lot of times we'll just come in and buy the whole packet. So that whole packet is about $20,000, and that's the desk, the cots, and we'll go through that in just a few minutes, and you'll see everything that's required in the classroom. So it typically does start it costs about $20,000 to start that classroom up. So when you hear that and you think that the money is going to pay for everything to get you started, understand that package costs about the first check, and your second check doesn't come until November or December, depending on how fast the comptroller's office is. So know that you've got to have money set aside somewhere to pay those teachers and to keep that classroom running. Yes, ma'am. Did you have a question?
Yes. What are the 4 months typically? August, July, November, December?
Yeah. The 4 typical months for payment are July for the initial payment, and then typically it is November 15th, February 15th, and May 15th. But please understand that with those dates, they can vary a little bit, because like this time we did our payments for November 15th, and I think we got the last ones out like a week ago, because the comptroller controls when they go out. We send the batches, and we can only send a batch of 200 at a time, and it takes 3 days for a batch. So if you multiply 200 times 1,200, then it takes a little bit. But we're starting our February 15th payments right now. So we're hoping that by the end of February, everyone will have their third check. So, but that is how that works. And then too, the new funding amounts this year included a 4% teacher raise in the overall amount of the grant. So we were hoping that kind of helped offset some of those benefits and the additional funding for the auxiliary teacher too. So, and then we gave a $200 per child allocation, so $200 per child, because the classrooms are expected to have 18 full enrollment. So we gave them until September, and then we looked at it again in December to see that everyone had 18 children, and if they didn't, we fined. So we took some of that money back, because we're trying to encourage those classrooms to be full so that children on waiting lists are sitting somewhere instead of on a waiting list. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, this is a form that's in the guidelines. For those that have looked at the guidelines online, which please do. I see a whole book, which is good. This is just a reminder that once you have your budget in place, that anything that is over $300 has to be pre-approved by your monitor or your regional director. So you can't buy something and then show them the receipt and go, is that okay? You need to talk to them before. And really that's, if we could really emphasize anything, it would be have a really good relationship with as a director, with your monitor. Because your monitor, and we say that the monitor is the person that comes in and makes sure everything's happening, but your monitor is there to support you. That's because we don't give money to people with the intent of taking it back. We want you to be successful because you're providing care for children, which is what we're all about. So your monitor wants you to succeed. Your monitor wants you to do the very best that you can do. So develop that relationship with your monitor, and she'll answer and help as much as she can. That's what she wants to do. That's how she got into this field. So most of our monitors are teachers that are either retired or they changed fields. So they've been exactly where you guys are. So, and a lot of them are directors. We're directors. So, all right, next, this is the list. These are the required items in the classroom. So, and this is not all of them. I'm going to show you another page in just a minute. And this is in the guidelines too. This is actually in the appendices, so if you want to see it. But we have helped out. We worked with, about 6 different companies to, and they put together packages like this. But please understand, because I had a conversation with a director not too long ago who, one person from a company got to her and she thought that was it, that it was exactly what it was, and that's what she had to buy. You don't have to buy from anybody. You can buy whoever you want to buy from, as long as you can get all of this. And if you can negotiate, negotiate. Because we say it runs about $20,000, but if you're a negotiator, yeah, you work that deal. Because it's your money. Once we hand it to y'all, it's your money. So we want you to get as much out of it as you can.
One of our directors is here with one of our vendors, and she didn't know that she didn't have to pay the whole $17,000 at one time.
Right.
You don't have to do that. They know, those vendors know how we operate and about the times that they get checks. So she paid vendor $17,000, and that was the amount that she received from us.
Yeah.
So she had no more funds to do anything with.
Yeah.
So be sure that they know that they they don't expect for you to pay the whole thing at one time.
Yeah. And then if you, as Loretta said, you don't have to pay the whole amount at the same time. You negotiate that deal however you want to. And keep in mind that if they're going to charge you tax or a delivery or any kind of thing on top, because they have to charge you tax, so you need to keep that in mind. Because that was the discussion that I had with the director in Mobile, that she said, they said it cost $20,000. Well, they're legally obligated to charge tax. So she was like, well, y'all have to give me the money for tax. And it's like, that's not how funding works. So negotiate and know that that's what you have. We work with our directors when there is an emergency. So I have to be careful how I say this, because I've stood in a meeting with the heart that I have and said, if y'all get tight on money, just call me. No, I'm gonna pull back on that a little bit. If there's a genuine emergency, because now I've got people calling me like every 2.5 weeks saying, I need my next check. It's like, I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. But sometimes it does work like that, but no, it should not. So, budget the best way that you can. If a troop, because like we had one that caught on fire. Their room caught on fire, and it literally burnt all their tables, all their stuffed animals, everything. In a situation like that, we're going to do what we can. But because you took out a loan, because you didn't plan right, we're not going to fix that all the time. So, and that's the worst phone call to me. That and like a child that can't get into a site. That's my top one. But my second one is a director who's in over her head and doesn't realize it, because we never want that to happen, ever, ever. We don't want to put you guys in a financial, situation that you're not prepared for, and we never want you guys hurting personally because of finances. So we'll do what we can, but know that we're also going to expect you to do your end of it. So these are all the items, and then Loretta, go to the next one. These are all the items. So it looks like a lot, it does. And these are actually additional items that you can look at if you have additional money left over. So, and then too, we used to do a separate playground funding opportunity, but that grant went away because we had a federal grant that would pay for that. It allowed us to outreach to areas of the country that the federal government deems as high need, and Birmingham, of course, was one of those. So we were able to do playgrounds. We don't have that funding still, but we are always looking for more money, of course. So once we see what the legislators give to us in May or so, we typically know what our budget is, then we'll know, if we have anything, because I get that question a lot too. Are we going to have, we call those enhancement grants, because they are one time and for a very specific thing. But then your monitors and coaches and RDs, regional directors, will let you guys know when that funding is available. So now, Loretta, I don't know if you want to go over some particular things in your experience that are not allowed. Come up here.
That are not allowed for purchases.
Because you think about food.
Yeah.
because a lot of times we'll do family engagement, because family engagement is highly encouraged, and we'll work with you on plans and think tools to use to engage your families, because studies have showed that if the family's engaged, the child does better, and they come to school more often, and that's what we want. We want those children in that structured environment. So a lot of people get confused when we say a family engagement, that's going to be door prizes and food and all that. You cannot use grant money for that.
And again, with food for children even, most of our programs use the Childcare Food and Nutrition program, and they may put in some from OSR funds, but majority of it has to be from your program. So we don't do a lot of food. We do food in the classrooms when teachers are having activities with food, so we do that. But as far as providing lunch and breakfast and snacks, we expect for you to do the Child Care Food and Nutrition program.
Yeah, so like if you're doing a lesson on fractions and you do oranges, because that'll show the sections and all that, you got to do something with that, after y'all do your lessons. So if the children eat that, that's allowable. So if you're smart about it, you can figure out ways, to use it to your advantage.
That's about it.
Okay, good. Yep. Oh, go ahead.
Subject to the $300 pre-approval when we purchase the starter kit items?
No, because the starter kit typically, as long as if it's like one of our and I hate to even say, it's not even recommended. We have some we have some companies on our website, and we try to get some local ones in each of our larger areas. You can use one of those, any of those, or you can use somebody totally on your own. So typically if you use one of the ones that's on our website, then we know that that's an approved package and it has everything in it. If you want to go to someone local and they put something together for you, then we would recommend that you talk to your monitor about that, just to make sure that you've got everything and that everything is age appropriate.
Yeah, and provide us with a list of the items, the classroom items that you're purchasing for them, so that we can make sure that they are appropriate.
Yep. And that way too, if you feel, if you're doing an existing classroom where you already have a site and you have a classroom there, if you feel like you have a lot of it and you just need to buy a few things, then of course then you would for sure let your monitor come in and make sure everything is age appropriate and it's still in good condition. So, all right. All right, let's see what's next. All right. And this, I also brought copies of the application for you guys to take on the way out. It is massive, but please know that a lot of the pages are like multiple choice, it has click what state you live in. So the form is going to print all the states. So it's not as long as it looks in the paper, but these are all the categories from the application. And when you're looking at the application, then you'll see all of these things twice. So the first one, we want to see how you're going to split up the money that we allocate to you. Okay, so whatever your grant requested amount is what this will equal up to. I cannot tell you how many of these I get, and they request the top amount, which is $100,008, and their budget will equal up to $88,200. And when I pull and look at reports, I pull the OSR requested amount. So I don't pull from what you pulled at the top, I pull from the bottom, because that's the money that you told me you're going to spend. So make sure that equals. Yeah, because now, I'll go through them as you guys submit throughout the next couple of months. And if I see something weird, I'll email you. But as we grow and grow and grow, that may not always be the case. So I don't want you to miss out on one single dollar that you need and that you are eligible for because you didn't know, which is why we do this. And we try to give you guys a face and a name and a phone number. So, and also there is a budget narrative required. So, and know that what you put, because I get calls all the time when people are doing their budgets on the application, and they're like, I don't know how much that's going to cost? And they're just freaking out about it. Do not freak out about this. The application is just an idea so that we know that you know what you're getting into. Because if people come in and they put $15,000 under personnel costs, and they do, education supplies, I can go to Walmart and get that for about $260. You don't know what you're getting into, and that tells us a lot. So we know that this is just a best guess, pretty much. We just need to know that you know what you're doing budget-wise. And then your monitor will work with you in that baseline budget, and that's your actual budget. So don't freak out about this. Do the best that you can and then move on. All right, and then the next one, that's it. Okay, so that's all of that. And like I said, I will give you guys a copy of the application, the paper one, and then you'll be able to see the OSR budget dollars and then your budget dollars. And that tells us a lot too, because what you have on hand, because Loretta and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, we used to say, because we were so gung-ho on making sure that we were really reaching out to everybody and encouraging people to apply, and we just wanted children to have access to pre-K, to good pre-K. So we were just out there, and people would go, I can't, 25% match of $100,000, that's a lot of money. And we were like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll do in kind. Well, in kind is starting to do us a little bit of a disservice, because if we tell you, 20% of that, you can just do it in kind, it's your building, it's your people, it's your support staff, it's your USDA dollars, then you don't have enough money to truly run it. So we don't want you guys to think that, I can just have a building and I'm ready to go. So now we're going to help you and educate you on the additional dollars that are available, so that you know that there are private entities in communities that do funding also that will help you. There are places that you can go for maybe things that you're paying for now that may give those to you for free. So we want to be creative with you. We want to help you build those relationships too in your own communities. But know that it does cost, that you're going to need to have some money on hand to pay salaries, most particularly, because we have found we do a lot of studies, and these are all online if you ever need to educate a parent or a board of directors or whoever, the higher ups that don't know and aren't involved in child care like we are, that everything that we ask of you, we ask it of you for quality. And quality is what makes Alabama's pre-K #1 in the nation. And we are, if you don't know that, Alabama has the #1 pre-K program in the nation. K through 12 needs some work, but if we can prepare our children at 4, our studies have found that it makes a difference in K through 12. Right now we're all the way up to the 8th grade that we're showing retention is lower, days out are lower, children not graduating is lower. So we're making a difference, and we make that difference because of the quality. So part of that quality is teacher pay. So you'll hear a lot about pay parity. So we know that we ask a lot of our privates to pay the same thing that a school pays. We know that, but we also know that it's important. So when you see that minimum and you're like, wow, that's a lot, that's what a school teacher makes. And we also know we don't want you guys not to have an opportunity at the best educated teachers because you can't offer them what a school can. So we try to give you the money to help you pay that pay parity so that they're making the exact same thing in a private daycare that they would make in a public school. So that is the budget, and we are here for questions. And we'll take questions about anything, so don't think that you can't ask a question about something else that you have to wait. So we'll take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
So the first one is it income or at risk it's one of the requirements?
Okay. Is it income related or at risk to be eligible for pre-K? No. This is Alabama's voluntary pre-K. That means we want every single child There are things that you can charge based on income, but there are no requirements. And you guys probably know our registration opened the 15th of this month, so like yesterday, because my phone rang on the hook all day long. But when they register, then they pick the schools that they want to go to. When that school gets all those children's names that signed up, they put those names in a hat, figuratively or literally, and they draw out those children. So we don't know what their income is, and we don't care. We're going to put those children in a classroom randomly, because that, again, is another study point that we've done. Diversity in the classroom goes across all things. That's socioeconomic, it doesn't matter. So yes. And then what, second question?
Are we able to, you did answer this question before, we are able to have after school care and before care?
Yes. Regarding after school or before school, you can do pretty much anything outside of the required 6.5 hours of instruction. That is, I mean, you can charge whatever you want to for it.
7:30?
6.5.
Okay, 6.5, okay.
Yeah, 6.5 hours of instruction, and then that teacher needs an hour of planning time. So she'll need to be there and dedicated to OSR for 7.5 hours, and then the students for 6.5.
And that aftercare or before care is not a part of OSR. It's not a part of our day, so that's your.
Yeah, but you can do whatever you want with that.
Thank you.
Say that one more time. It's not a part of.
It's not a part of the OSR day,
Okay. So
and that way we don't have any say-so over what you do, how you charge for before care or after.
Gotcha.
One more,
Yeah.
one last question,
Sure.
I'll take over.
Are we able to add parent fees to families attending class?
Okay. And this is just history. For a while, we could not, because if you receive federal dollars, then one of their stipulations is that you cannot charge parent fees. And we don't really call them fees, we call them donations, because we don't want you to ever put a child out because their parent can't pay. So we encourage you to do that, but it's based on income. So it can go, what, $40 to $300? Yeah.
And it's in our guidelines.
Yeah, so it's based on their income, and then we have a lot of privates that have really good, luck. I hate to call it luck, it's not luck, it's skill, because you talk to your parents and you know. But we have a lot of privates that collect it and do really well with it. We don't normally encourage you to depend heavily on that in your budget, because you don't know. Because one year you may have 18 parents that just pay and you never even have to send a note out, and then the next year you'll have 4. So.
If we want to do the before care and after care, can we use that classroom, or they cannot be in that classroom?
Yeah, she asked if they did before school care or after school care, if they could use the classroom, and yes, because it's yours, it's your classroom. Yeah. The stuff that's in it is OSR. So we don't want you to pull a lot of stuff in there that's not appropriate, because you've got an after care program or after school program that maybe older kids, because we have that sometimes with the playgrounds, where the playground becomes non-developmentally appropriate because it's being shared. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything? Yes, ma'am.
So there's one, just for budget-wise, there's one teacher. Under the guidelines and under licensing, do you always have to have 2 people in the classroom?
Yes.
So, so like if I were to do something where I had somebody from 7:30 to 3:30 or 2:30 as the assistant, along with the teacher, and then I swap over to aftercare, then 2 aftercare people? No.
No, she's asking if,
Even for licensing?
I don't know
For
what license.
licensing, you may.
Yeah, because that's a ratio thing. Yeah, she's asking about after school care and the ratio versus OSR with the DHR regulations. And there are regulations with DHR for how many children you can have with one adult. So that is separate from us, because we don't do DHR monitoring. So but during the OSR day, you have to have 2 people. The only time you can only have 1 person with the children is if they're napping. So I don't know, I'd have to check on the DHR regs, but I know that depending on the age, how many adults are with the children.
Okay, and then so if I need to have somebody separate come in and prepare the lunch so that I can always have 2 people in the classroom. Got it.
Yep.
They have to have their cell phone license.
Yeah, but I've got somebody. Okay.
Did you have one? I'm sorry.
What if you are hiring a retired teacher, and they are drawing retirement?
Yeah.
How does that, is it 32,000 now?
It is 32 now.
So that would be the max that
Yeah.
you could give that
Yeah.
teacher?
Yeah, okay. If, her question was, if you have a retired teacher that you hire, there are stipulations on their retirement with RSA that says they can only make $32,000 a year on top of their retirement. And that's only if, though, you, tell me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure, because I'm the personnel manager at our department too. So RSA rules only apply if it's a hire at another agency. So if you contribute to RSA for your people, like CAPNA does, then that rule comes into effect. If it's because like if my husband were to retire today, he could go work for whatever accounting firm he wanted to work for, and that rule doesn't come into effect. It's only if it's another contributing entity. Does that make sense?
Has to be a part of the State Department.
Right. Right. Now, sometimes we do have somebody right now that works for a school that's a retired school teacher, but she's a pre-K teacher too. So we are working with them for that because she's highly skilled. And so we don't want to lose that in our classroom. So we will always do what we can to make accommodations for the best person.
So as long, let's just say if the program is a nonprofit organization, there's not an issue.
Should not be.
Are you still required to pay them teacher pay?
Yes.
That's really the bottom line question.
Yeah. Because if the requirement is that, even because I mean we don't know what other people's situations are, because we could have 200 teachers right now that are retired from Mississippi. I don't know, that came over here with full retirement, and that's not our business, I guess. But I mean, like I said, there's always an exception.
It was really
So,
the question, and I worded it right.
Yeah. That's
Are we required to pay them $50,000 if they're a retired teacher? But if they're a separate entity than the State Department, then yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. I'm with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Tammy, I had a question that was brought to my attention, and a provider has been looking for a lead teacher for a pre-K classroom. And of the applicants, she came across 2. One was a teacher that had a degree in elementary ed. The other was a teacher who had a degree in early childhood. However, during the interview process, the elementary ed teacher was a better fit. Could she hire the elementary ed person and they also get a CDA to compensate for the early childhood or child development hours that they need?
I would say.
The question is that if the lead teacher has an elementary ed degree, could we hire her?